Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. As you can see, I'm down here at Cockle Bay on Sunday morning. I am working today, so I've come down a little bit earlier to do a vlog. Sunday morning, it's autumn, but as you can see, it's a beautiful blue-skied Sydney autumn day, and as I've always said in the past, autumn is by far the best weather in Sydney. We usually have blue skies, clear days and mild conditions, so mild that tomorrow they're talking about temperatures of hitting almost 40 degrees, which is unbelievable. But I love autumn in Sydney, and as I say, it is the best season to be in Sydney here in Australia. What I want to do today is do a book summary like I normally do on Jim's 5am Club, but today's book summary is an absolute cracker. So much so that I'm going to actually buy the book and read the book, because I'm so impressed with the book summary that I feel that I need to not only read it, but to study it and to take some deeper notes and to look into it and make a little bit more of the content, because this author, Ed Mylett, has really hit the nail on the head, and this book, the material in this book, really resonates with me, and I'm sure it'll resonate with you. It's got an interesting title. The title is called The Power of One More, and is a book which is jam-packed with material on personal development, but it's articulated and presented in a way that is really compelling and really useful and practical. Things that can be implemented and used and leveraged immediately by most of us, so we can make the most of what we have available to us in terms of our skills and the opportunities that are available. So this book is about doing a little extra, doing one more rep, one more phone call, getting up 1 hour earlier, building one more relationship, saying hello to one more person, and basically just doing a little bit more in your life than what is expected and what you're used to doing. So it's all about just getting a bit more, doing a bit more, and being a bit more. And according to this author, just taking this little step, this little incremental step on a daily basis can basically create a whirlwind of opportunity and change for you that can improve one's life, one's station in life, and the productivity that we get to enjoy. So the author kicks off with a powerful, profound point that we're not born average or ordinary. Now, we all have the invitation to live an extraordinary and an awesome life, and it's up to each and every one of us to rise to that challenge and to make the most of the skills, the gifts that we are awarded from birth, because we know that we are made in God's image. And when we say we're made in God's image, what we actually mean is that we're made with elements of God's virtues. And each of us have God's virtues. It's part of our human nature. But we're granted those virtues in different proportions. Some may get 2, 2 portions of something. Others may get 3, others may get 10, but nobody will get the entire portion that God has, the infinite portions of each of the virtues. So we all have elements of those virtues that are part of our being, part of our creation. We were made that way, we were born that way. And what we need to do is we need to take those portions, those elements, those virtues, and piece them together, use them, expand them where possible, and leverage them against the other virtues that we have, so that we can create the masterpiece that we have been called to create in our lifetimes, in our own lifetimes. Make the most of our life. So we are called to become better than average, to be more than average, to be more than ordinary. And as I heard about a priest once, Hieron Nectarios, when he went to his spiritual father, he said to his spiritual father that he wanted to become a priest. And his spiritual father immediately said, "No, no way. Go away, don't waste my time." So, being an obedient person, Hieron Nectarios went away and thought about it. But his calling, his deep calling, was for him to enter the priesthood and to become a monastic. So he went back to his spiritual father and pleaded with him, saying, "I really want to become a priest. Why don't I get your blessing to become a priest?" To which the spiritual father said to Hieron Nectarios, "If you just want to become a priest, then I won't allow it. I won't waste your time and I won't waste my time. There are 10,000 priests in Greece. Now, what difference is one extra priest going to make to the world and to humanity?" But he says, if you want to become the priest and to become an extraordinary priest, then you will have my blessing. Why would one just want to become a priest? Why would one want to become a doctor? Why would one want to become an accountant? The objective in life, if that is your calling, is to become the accountant that makes the change, that becomes a leader within their field and is able to fully implement their calling and express their calling and become the best at what they do. So we need to change the way we think, is the key message coming from this author. We need to understand that we're all made differently. We're made different from each other, but we're made different for each other. As we said before, we've got different skills, we've got different experiences, we've got different strengths and different weaknesses, but we need to be able to work with each other to be able to express those strengths and amplify those strengths and to minimize those weaknesses where we can. So the way we think influences the way we behave, and the way we behave influences who we ultimately become. So we need to do a lot more with our lives and to become ambassadors to our calling, and not to sit back and wait, to be invited, but to do all we can, whenever we can, to be the greatest that we can be. So most people think that there is a limit to what they can do. But you can change, you can decide, and by changing and deciding the way you think will change the outcome, will change the trajectory of your outcomes and your life is a key message here. It's that simple. The author here says something else which is really profound and quite amazing. He says that we are usually just one step away from an important insight. Just one step away. And most people, unfortunately, give up just before they hit that one step that gets them over that hump, builds that momentum and gets them round that bend which they thought was going to be the end. So just using that as an example is really powerful, just to say that we're just one step away from that change. We're just one step away from that door, that window, that pathway that's going to lead us to the next exciting journey in our lives. The author here invites us to become obsessed with one more, to become obsessed with trying to do one more thing that is going to make the biggest difference in our lives. And we need to ask ourselves, what more can I do? What is the one thing that I can do that is going to turn this situation, this experience, from a +6 or a +7 out of 10 to a +8, to a +9, to a +10. A lot of people complain that their lives are boring, but they never think about what is one more thing that I can do at this particular point in time that is going to make this experience just a little bit better for me and the ones around us. And usually it's something very, very small, something very minuscule, and yet it makes the greatest difference. So what the author here is saying is that we need to have a mindset of one more thing. What is the one thing that I can do that is going to have the greatest impact? So you don't need your thoughts and actions to be profound in order to compound, is the catch cry from this author. You don't have to do big, massive things to have massive, big outcomes. You just need to do a lot of little things on a regular basis. Things that are mindful, things that are thoughtful, and things that are going to take you to that next step, that next opportunity. Something that you can leverage and other people can leverage as well. So your thoughts and actions don't need to be profound in order to be compound, so in order to multiply and to manifest in a big, massive way. So the author here invites us, and this is a really key point and a powerful point, we need to learn to keep promises to ourselves. In order to keep promises to other people, you first need to conquer yourself. You first need to be able to keep and do the things that you promise yourself, to apply your knowledge. I remember years ago, a friend of mine, John Namatala, would always say that, knowledge is important, but at the end of the day, unless you apply that knowledge, unless you apply the things that you learn, then knowledge is not powerful at all. At the end of the day, knowledge on itself is useless, but knowledge with application becomes all powerful. Applied knowledge. And the metaphor that we use here is that all the experiences that we accumulate over our lives, and the experiences that I'm going to accumulate in my life, are going to be vastly different to the experiences that you're going to accumulate in your life. For example, we're all going to have a different past. We're all going to have a different present. I am here, you are there, you are somewhere else, could be in a different time sphere and time zone. And we're all going to most certainly have a different future. And even if we're in the same place at the same time, what I am focusing on and what I am interpreting is going to be completely different to what you're interpreting. Just right here and right now, just over there in the nightclub, there is a gay party happening where people are just having the time of their lives. And yet, from where I stand and from my principles and my view of life and my experiences, I look at them and I don't feel excited, I don't feel joyous or happy. I just look at it and just say, well, good on them, they can do whatever they want, but it's not something that I condone nor support in any way. And all the marches, all the parades, all the media hype in the world can't turn a vice into a virtue. So getting back to the bamboo tree in terms of how compound growth works, the story goes as follows. A bamboo tree, once it's planted, won't show any progress for 2 or 3 years, won't show any progress above the ground for 2 or 3 years, because for 2 or 3 years below the ground, it is creating a network of roots, a network of structure and support that happens incessantly and at a rapid pace underground. So it develops its roots, its structure, its support, and then after about 2 or 3 years, it surfaces above the ground, and within a few months it becomes an absolute forest. And that's how we are as people. The little things that we do on a regular basis don't show up as any significant result to anybody, even to ourselves. The results are invisible because they're happening underground, they're happening within us. But there comes a time where everything comes together and is leveraged, and what happens is that we start to get the compounding effect of our investments of time, of our investments of money, of our investments of education, of reading, of networking, and before you know it, you wake up one day and you are so much more richer, wealthier in many ways than what you were the previous day, because all of a sudden everything starts to come together. All of the knowledge, all of your learnings start to come together, and they start to leverage and work with each other to become massive sort of outcomes, similar to the bamboo tree, which is a great metaphor to think about. So the key message from the author here is that we need to focus, and we need to focus hard on the building blocks, on what we do, on the little things that we do, and not to be distracted, to be like an eagle, to be able to have a broad view from on high in terms of how everything fits together, but also have an eye for detail, to do the work, to do the detail work, in order to be able to leverage and build on both the big picture and the small picture. Which means that we need to, in many times in our lives, to stay focused and not to be distracted, because along the way there are going to be huge numbers of distractions. There are going to be people, there's going to be the media, there's going to be social media, parents, friends, family, school friends, uni friends, communities that are going to be calling us, just like the siren called Ulysses. They're going to be calling us, and they're going to be calling us away from our calling. So what we need to do is we need to block our ears, block our senses, just like Ulysses put the wax in his ears and tied himself to the mast pole. We too need to stay focused on what we need to do in order to make the most of the gifts that we have. So to get the most of your gifts, the author here talks about the importance of having intentional thought and intentional actions it's important to understand this intentionality when he talks about having intentional thoughts and intentional actions, and to do the things that are going to deliver us the greatest output, the greatest return on our investment. And there'll be times where you're just investing time and effort over and over again. But because we live in lag time, an important point is that we live in lag time, just like parenting, just like growing up as a child or bringing up your children. There is a lag time between the seeds that you're sowing and the returns that you may get, not guaranteed to get, but you may get when your children get a little bit older and start to live their life and start to express themselves after, of course, they've gone through the trials and tribulations of childhood. And some people never seem to get over and beyond those trials and tribulations and are caught up in communities which just want to party all the time and just want to live the here and now and not think about family, friends, their future, and the many, many consequences, the first, second and third level consequences of their decisions and actions. So the bottom line, once again, the author here reminds us, is that we need to commit. We need to commit to growth and development. And in order to lean, to grow and develop, we need to invest in a little bit of pain and suffering. We need to lean just outside our comfort zone, because it's just outside that party zone, it's just outside that comfort zone that the magic starts to happen. When you start to push yourself, when you start to do one more rep, when you get up an hour earlier, or you do a little bit more, or you ask yourself the question, what is the one thing that I can do to make this an unforgettable positive experience, not only for me but for other people? So we need to do ourselves, we need to control our internal messaging and storytelling, and make sure that that internal storytelling and messaging is something that serves us. It's not something that we just inherit and take from somebody else without questioning it and asking ourselves, are these stories, is this lifestyle going to serve me, serve my future, make my parents proud? Is it God serving? Is it God pleasing? And is it going to lead me to a better life today, tomorrow, and also for the people around me? So we need to control that internal messages and storytelling, and to know that each child is born with a blank canvas. Each child has its own future, its own life to live. And we are all born with a different sort of outcome intended for us. You can go fishing, stand on a pier with 100 other people. Not all people are going to catch a fish. Not all people are going to catch the big fish. Not all people today are going to catch the fish that they caught yesterday, or be as successful as yesterday, or unsuccessful as yesterday. No, we all have our own calling, and the outcomes that we receive are lessons that we need to try and study and to learn from. But sometimes we don't need to take life too seriously, and just to understand that what happened today may not be what's going to happen tomorrow. We just need to keep on going, keep on following our dream, keep on following our goal or goals, and make sure that our actions are aligned to our goals, and our goals are aligned to our values, the things that we value. And to know that, as a child, we all are born into the world with a blank canvas, and we're going to have different slivers of reality come our way. Each day, we're all going to experience different slivers of reality, And each of those slithers that we have, we need to try and interpret. We need to try and understand, to figure out, to make sense of. And the interpretations that we put on those slithers of reality are going to be our reality, the way we see our life, our worldview. So what we need to do is that we need to keep on questioning those slithers of reality and to compare and contrast those slithers of reality to other people's slithers of reality, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, and other community people. So much so that we have a vast array of information that we can use, that we can bank on. We have books, we have documentaries, we have a thing called OPE, other people's experiences, where people have been able to take their deep thinking, their deep thoughts, and capture those. So the more of these other people's experiences that we get to compare and contrast, the more we're going to be able to assess and to review whether or not our slithers of reality are valid, and if they match other people's slithers of reality. But we also need to understand that whilst we have a lot of people in the world around us with opinion, not all of those opinions, not all of those lifestyles are equal. Some are featherweight, some are heavyweight. It's up to each person to determine and to decipher the messages and the experiences that other people present to them as to whether or not these experiences are lightweight or heavyweight. And as I said before, all the marches in the world, all the Instagram posts in the world, all the media hype in the world can't necessarily make a wrong right or a right wrong. Each person needs to live their truth, knowing that there is only one truth, and the purpose of all of us in life is to discover the truth, and that takes a lifetime. We have a lifetime given to us by God, and we have a lifetime to live and express that truth, and to live, learn and pass it on to our children and future generations, and not to waste it. So we need to question our identity, we need to question our beliefs, we need to benchmark and baseline those beliefs to other people's beliefs, and we need to adjust our identity thermostat. This is a key point that the author makes, and I absolutely love him for this point, that our identity, who we see ourselves as, who we identify as, is critical to our life and our lifestyle and our calling. And each of us have an identity thermostat, which, regardless of what happens to a person's life, your life will always revert back to that thermostat setting. So that's why it's important as children to, for our parents to guide us in the right way, to have the right bringing up, to be surrounded by good people who are going to help us determine the thermostat setting in our life, and to make sure that we maintain that setting throughout our lives. Because you can go in ups, and life has its ups and downs. If you're a positive person, it doesn't matter how much negativity comes into your life, you're always going to find your equilibrium, which is a positive equilibrium. And likewise, if you're a negative sort of person, a pessimist, it doesn't matter how much good comes into your life, doesn't matter how much partying you do, with how many positive people you hang out with, sooner or later you're going to be who you see yourself as being, because you can never outdo, you can never outshine, you can never outperform your self-identity. So we need to be careful, we need to be cautious in how we identify ourselves, and not to let other people set our identity, but to set that identity ourselves with the help, as I said, of the people who love us, our parents, our community leaders, our hopefully good teachers at school, our spiritual father, our siblings. It's important to set the right identity and the right self-belief. Because as we said, self-worth and self-identity is managed by your thermostat, your identity thermostat, and it regulates your reality, it regulates how you see things. So your thoughts, your actions will be aligned, will be influenced, significantly influenced by your identity thermostat. So we need to be, as I said, careful not to be too open-minded. A lot of people these days say it's important to have an open mind, but I really believe that this whole thing is just really dangerous, because an open mind without being diligent, without being cautious, opens you up to problems, because an open mind basically becomes an open tip for somebody else's rubbish to be just thrown in there. So you're better off being careful, I guess, cautious, measured with what you open your mind to, what you open your life to, because once you take a step in the wrong direction, then you get caught up in the current, as the Greeks say, and the river will take you to a waterfall, and you won't be able to fight yourself and get back out of that waterfall. So your actions, your goals and your values need to be aligned. And a lot of this stuff happens subconsciously, unconsciously. Now this is another powerful message which comes from this author. There are things that we can control in terms of how we think and what we think, but there's a lot of things that are happening below the surface at your subconscious level, which you have no control over. And this is where your identity thermostat kicks in, because your identity thermostat, that thing that regulates how you think, how you feel, how you behave, is aligned to your subconscious, to things that you're not aware of, the things that you can't control, you can't manage, and you just go with the flow. So we need to make sure that what we put into our intentional thinking can somehow influence our subconscious where possible, because our identity can be shaped, confirmed and affirmed by others and yourself. So that's why we need to be careful what is being created, as it can be difficult to change once it becomes accepted and ingrained. Once again, pay attention to what I'm saying here. What we're saying here is that you can create your identity, but others can shape your identity as well if you're not careful. As Steve Covey and Jim Rohn say, you end up becoming the average, the weighted average of the half dozen people you hang out with. So, like it or not, the people you hang out with, the websites you listen to, the television programs you watch, the videos that you tune into, all of those things, all of those influences are shaping your worldview, are infecting your subconscious, and are adjusting and readjusting your thermostat on your identity. So much so that you may get to the point where you look yourself in the mirror one day and you don't even recognize that the person you see there anymore. So you can and you are welcome to challenge your identity. There's nothing wrong with challenging your identity, and to make sure that the identity, the stories that you say, the stories that repeat, that ruminate in your mind over and over again, are the stories that serve you. Just because you were that way when you were younger doesn't mean that you have to be like that all your life. You can change. You can get on the right path again in your life. So we're called to challenge our past and our stories, and to understand that our thermostat could be faulty. As I mentioned before, we all have a identity thermostat, something that you identify with. But that thermostat can be faulty, is what the author is saying. It doesn't mean that because you identified with something once upon a time, or that somebody forced an identity upon you, or it became cool to identify with certain things throughout your life, that identity is true, that identity is right, and that identity is you. Now, you have the ability to challenge your identity, and you can challenge your past and the stories that you've been saying to yourself and that other people have been saying about you, because that thermostat can be faulty, and that thermostat happens in your subconscious. But your subconscious, that thermostat, can respond to conscious stimulus. So this is very, very important. Once again, another profound point which makes me love this author and love this book. He said something here which is really powerful. And he says that for every single negative that you have in your life, or for every single negative that you think about, for every single negative, you need at least 10 positives to swap it out or to neutralize it. So you know how every day, we come to work, or we do things with our family or our friends. Doesn't matter where you are, what happens. Sometimes something negative happens, and that negative thing that happens can get you down. But what the author's saying is that one negative thing that has happened, or that one negative thing that you've convinced yourself, or that one thing that you can convince yourself of being negative, actually requires 10 positive things to happen in order to neutralize and to remove that negativity from your life. So if you go somewhere and somebody says something to you that you receive as being negative, you're going to need at least 10 compliments from other people to bring you back to a clean slate, to bring you back to zero again. So that's why it's important to be careful what you say to yourself, especially the negative things that you say to yourself, as well as the negative things that you say to other people, the negative things you say to your children, your grandchildren, your partner, your peers, because those negative things have a compounding effect and require a lot more positive things to happen in order to neutralize and bring those back to zero, as I said before. So be careful when you say to your granddaughter something which is negative, or your daughter, your children, your friends, your partner, because you need 10 positive things to undo the damage that one negativity has created. That is a powerful thing. So be careful of the negative things that we say to ourselves and the negative things that we say to others in our lives. And you will always end up where your thermostat is calibrated by yourself and or others. But we need to realize that in our lives we're going to fail. But these failures are stepping stones to our success and our future. Failures are just temporary setbacks, and a one more person sees setbacks as speed humps. We can get through these. We can use these as stepping stones. We can use these as learnings, as lessons in our lives to help us get to where we want to get to. We may not be able to get there in a straight line because life is variable, but if we know where we're heading and you maintain your pace and you stick to your goals, you'll get there. Even if you have roadblocks in the way, you just need to vary your approach to go over, under, through to get to where you want to get to. And the author here talks about the importance to have good intentions so that your soul doesn't have any regrets, and to understand that our brains are our servant. They'll do whatever we tell them to do. So what we load into our brain, the thoughts that we have, the things that we talk about, the positive things that we ruminate over, are going to have a positive impact on our lives. And what the author here is saying is that our brains respond as servants to our thoughts. So if you have positive thoughts, if you have positive stories that you tell yourself, if you look at things in a positive way, then that is eventually going to filter into your brain and adjust your subconscious, because what you want to do is you want to flood your subconscious with positive, productive stories, positive experiences, so that you can have your thermostat, your identity thermostat, set at the most productive level it can be. Because intentions are the currency that lets you make valuable deposits in your identity bank account. That is such a powerful thing. So your intentions, your positive intentions, is the currency that allow you to make valuable deposits into your identity bank account. So what surrounds us is what is within us. We become the average of the half dozen people that we hang out with, as I mentioned before. And sooner or later, we become like them, but consciously and subconsciously, we become like them as well. So be careful who your influences are. And I understand that these days we are surrounded by different influences to what our parents and grandparents may have been surrounded by in their times. Back in the old times, the influences in the family would have been the family members, the father, the mother, grandparents, uncles, aunts, the friends and family within a village environment, political leaders, spiritual leaders, a spiritual father, the church, and some sporting people. But the influences would have been, people like saints. Whereas these days, with platforms that we have available, the social media platforms, anybody can be an influencer who has an opinion. So all you need to do is have an opinion. Doesn't matter if it's the right opinion. Doesn't matter if it's an empowering or a truthful opinion. As long as you've got an opinion, you can be an influencer. And sadly, the people who are the biggest influencers on social media are the ones who are least qualified to be influencers. They have no formal qualification to be sprouting the conspiracy theories and the bullshit that they spread day in, day out, and talk with authority on things that they have no idea or no authority to talk about. So, as we mentioned before, we need to be discerning with the investments that we make in our lives, with the thoughts, and to be discerning with what goes into our minds, and not to open our minds too much, else, as I said before, it becomes a rubbish tip, an absolute garbage tip for all the rubbish and all the bullshit that these influencers are trying to make us believe. Now, we've got the woke minority who are trying to make us believe that all the things that we know when we were growing up are absolutely wrong. They're trying to make us believe that that is now all right. And all the things that we knew that were right, absolutely right when we were growing up, they're trying to make us believe that all of that sort of stuff is absolutely wrong. The woke wankers, for God's sake. What can we do? We just need to make sure that we, as I said before, are discerning with who we listen to and who we open up to, else we become very lost, and our children go down the path as well. The other thing that the author talks about here is another very sensitive topic, that in our lives we have to also understand that some people and some relationships have outlived their purpose. And I'm conscious of this as well, through our lives, we come into people's lives, other people come into our lives, and there is a use by date. There is a purpose for that meeting, for that relationship, but it can't last forever. So what we need to do is make the most of the relationships and the people that we have in our lives. As I say, people die, people move on, and people aren't meant to be with us forever. So we need to make the most of what we have when we've got it, while we've got it, and to understand that some people in relationships have outlived their purpose, and other people, we all change throughout our lives as well, and some people change for the better, other people change for the worse. Some people change in a way which no longer aligns with your values, no longer aligns with your goals and your worldview, and you've got to let go. You've got to understand that the time has come to let go and to move on, because people, this is powerful, people can drain or elevate your thermostat, your identity thermostat. If you're with people who are draining your identity thermostat, then you've got to let them go. You've got to be a sort of person who's elevating, helping other people to identify what their thermostat is and what their calling is, and to support them, to help them grow and to become a full expression of their calling, as long as their calling, of course, is a God-fearing one, is a God-pleasing calling, rather than one which is selfish, one which is just focused on one's self-promotion, self-gratitude, or self-enjoyment. Now, in life, our calling is to serve God with all our heart, mind and soul, to worship God, and also to serve each other, to serve our partners, our neighbours, and to love them as we love ourselves. And to first of all love ourselves, to invest in ourselves, to become the best version of ourselves, so that investment and the fruits of those investments can be used to help others. We become wealthy to use that money to make other people's lives better and easier. We become popular, we become networked in order to use that network, to influence that network, and use that network to help others. We become healthy, strong, and good in order to become a positive influence on other people's lives, to lead them to God, to lead them and to support them in their God-pleasing callings. Something to think about. And just to remember that our identity equilibrium is a natural state, and your intentions will set your mind to working, creating your new identity. Because our brain, what we have in our brain, what we think about intentionally on a regular basis, will manifest our future. This is another very powerful point that comes from this book. You know, we need self-confidence. We need to keep the promises to ourselves, and we need to trust in ourselves, and we need to grow, and to know that our thoughts, we need to shape our thoughts, because they are incubators of good or bad. Once again, what we think is what we become. As my friend Bill Mayward said years ago, what we focus on is what we are. So these thoughts that we have, these seeds, as we mentioned before, are incubators of good and bad. And in order to create the new, we need to empty the old. As Bruce Lee said, we need to empty a cup in order to fill it up. So that's why we need to let go of relationships that no longer serve us. We need to let go of thoughts that no longer serve us. We need to let go of experiences and not focus on things that no longer serve us, in order to create the room, in order to fill the cup and to grow and to develop. There's another way of looking at it as well, that you need to fill your cup in order for your cup to overfilleth and to overflow, in order to be generous with your skills, with your love, with your capabilities, and to be able to help your neighbour. You need to first be full yourself. So it's the same thing, just expressed differently. So optimism is important in our life, but optimism won't guarantee success. But the author here says, but pessimism will generate and guarantee that you don't succeed. So be careful with what you think and how you think. Because what the author here is saying is that pessimism dials your thermostat down and allows yourself to deny yourself. And a life of possession, a life of self-indulgence, a life of hedonism, according to this author, leads to hollowness, a sense of emptiness. You can party all night, you can dance all night, you can dress with the coolest clothes, but all those possessions, all of that partying, will lead, as the author says here, to hollowness. You are not the sum of your accomplishments, according to John Wooden. And we are put on earth to do great things, to partner with God, to serve God, and to serve each other, as I mentioned before. And life isn't all about compliments, getting compliments. So don't spend your life just trying to be a pleasure machine, trying to gain compliments from others, because wanting compliments, wanting to be stroked and to be loved and to be accepted, regardless of whether or not it's in the right place or wrong place, is a trap, because beauty will go, masculinity or femininity will go. The most beautiful people in the world will eventually lose that beauty, that external beauty. And as we always know, the catch cry is that beauty comes from within, because we are defined by our content of our character and not the reflection in the bathroom mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest woman or queen of all? So we've got to be careful that we don't get sucked into the narrative of living and staying young and being a party animal and being popular, because there'll come a day where you're not popular, because as you age, what happens is that you become invisible, as Ida Buttrose said many years ago, and it is so true. No, we need to live as mature people, and we need to live our matrix. And this is where the author brings into the discussion the idea of a matrix. We need to live our own life as the one that changes your family tree forever. Once again, this is very profound and very powerful. Just think about it. Your life, your lifestyle, the decisions you make today not only impact your life, but also impacts the life of those around you, impacts your family, your friends, your parents, your grandparents, and all of those good people who have come before you, those good people who have passed away and are depending on you to carry on from where they left off, to carry on their Christian religion, to carry on their biological genes, to carry on their culture, to carry on the valuable life lessons that they have learnt. And by being selfish, by just wanting to do your thing without considering family, friends, community, church, is very selfish, as I said, very selfish and very myopic, and has first, second and third level consequences that you are going to have to deal with. Now, the important thing is to look back over your life and to see yourself as being an ambassador, a link in that long chain that links and brings together the previous 3 generations to the next 3, rather than the person who ends it all by being selfish, by not marrying, by not having children, by not becoming or living their faith, by not memorializing their loved ones, by not supporting their country, by not being patriotic, by not being generous. No, we are all called to be ambassadors. We want our families, the ones who have gone before us, to be proud of us, proud of our efforts, and to see us and to say, that's how I wanted them to live, and that's how they're going to succeed. My uncle George used to say, and he was a very prophetic man, he says, I want to see my children and grandchildren and young people, and I want to be jealous of them. I don't want to feel sorry for them. I don't want to see them on a Sunday morning partying as if there's no tomorrow, and knowing that that is not going to be the sort of lifestyle that's going to lead them to a future which is going to be of honour to the family. It's a trap, and we need to be careful that we don't get trapped and that we live our matrix in the best possible way that we can. And the author here talks about the fact that we live in our matrix, and our matrix is what has been programmed into our brains and our conscious and subconscious. Our matrix is a colloquial name for your RAS, for your RAS, for your reticular activating system. So what the author here is saying, and I love this metaphor, that each of us have a matrix, a unique matrix that we live in. And that matrix is built up, is shaped by your reticular activating system, which is a part of your brain which is the filter. It's a part of the brain that filters, allows the things to bubble to your conscious level from your subconscious, and it's the things that you focus on, the things that you see as being important, the things that you see as being dangerous or a threat. All of those things appear in your reticular activating system, the things that appear in your filter. So all the other things get filtered out, everything else becomes a scotoma, and the things that are part of your reticular activating system are the things that you focus on, the things that you see, the things that you experience, the things that you basically live. And as you say, they're the things that manifest themselves in front of you, the things that you actually see, whereas for somebody else it's a scotoma, for you it's a clear sight. And that's why Christians, for example, fervent Christians, have of course God and Christianity programmed into their reticular activating system, and that's why they will manifest miracles through their prayers. They will see things that other people can't see. They'll feel things other people can't feel, because that is what they're focusing on. That's what their conscious mind is able to see and focus on. There was an author many years ago who would say, you will see what you will believe. I forget his name now. It's amazing how quickly one forgets. It'll come to me shortly. But you'll see what you believe. So if you believe in something, then what will happen is the confirmation biases that we have will make it available for us to see. It will bubble to the surface. It will, appear magically before your eyes, is the key point. So the filter that gives weight to the important things in our life, your focus. So another way of seeing the reticular activating system is that it's the filter that gives weight to the important things in your life. And each of us put importance on different things. We weight things differently based on our values, based on our worldview, and those weights, that value that we place on things, will be our matrix, and will be the things that our subconscious bubbles to the surface for our conscious to see. So the RAS filters things into our conscious, things that have always been there but were scotomas, blind spots before. We have scotomas and blind spots in all areas of our lives, our work, our knowledge, our relationships, our health, you name it. There are things that we just don't see. There are things that are obvious to other people, and yet we don't see them. So the author here talks about the fact that there are things that are filtered out because you did not think that they were important enough. But what happens is, with the reticular activating system, is it slows things down. It slows down time by allowing us to be in the present, by taking notice, by being in a flow state. So that's why it's important, very, very important, for us to be reflective. And Christians at this time of the year, during Easter, have a lot of time to reflect on themselves, on their lives, and to try and identify and to reshape what's important, what's of value, and what their life is all about. So what the author is saying is that once you filter things into your reticular activating system, it allows your life to slow down. It allows you to be in a flow state. And as we said before, we live our lives in our own reality, based on the slivers of reality and the meaning that we've placed on things, and that everything has a first, second, and third level consequence. So we walk in established risk-free paths of life, which remove some of the rainbow colours. So the author here is also saying that when he talks about rainbow colours, of course he's not referring to the gay movement, the LGBTQ asterisk everything other than heterosexual movement. What he's saying is that we need to take risks in our life in order to see the different colours, see the different shades, to experience the salt and pepper, the good, the bad, because you need to experience sadness in order to experience happiness. You can't just live happy all your life, other than if you just live a life in Christ, according to the church. So we need to do what is best for us while serving God and serving others, as we mentioned before, and we need to invest in ourselves and to understand that the reticular activating system activates your entire cerebral cortex and puts us on high alert, which is a really important thing to do, because when we're aroused, we are prepared, our brain is prepared for action. And by being aroused, by being prepped, what the author here is saying is it releases chemicals and a voltage into our brain to enable us to see, feel and experience life at its highest form. But we also need to understand that the reticular activating system can also be damaged. It can be damaged through mental disorder and shape one's reality. So there is challenges at foot for people through mental disorder, mental health issues, and we know that everybody has mental health issues to a certain degree. Everybody has mental health issues. Some have them worse than others, and some have less than others. But what the author here is saying, that even the reticular activating system can be faulty and can be focusing on things that we shouldn't be focusing on. So don't just take things for granted. So things manifest themselves. We need to validate our beliefs through the mountain of data. We live in a world today that has a lot more data, a lot more information than what any previous generation has ever had to deal with and process. So much so that in one day we get bombarded with many more messages today than what our grandparents and great-grandparents got bombarded with in an entire lifetime. We have to instantly make a decision to pay attention or to create a scotoma and not pay attention to all of the stuff that comes flowing our way on a daily basis. So we need to be careful, and we need to take some time off, because the reticular activating system, our whole body, our brains get tired, they get drained. So if you try to be a people pleaser, if you try to be popular, if you try to be cool all the time, then sooner or later, according to this author, you're going to be drained and you're going to have to do something to sort it out. So the author here talks about the law of attraction, which is where the reticular activating system connects the subconscious to the conscious. And we need to basically live our lives to the best of our abilities, and to be aware that we're all infected by confirmation biases and selective recall, and that our embedded beliefs, believe it or not, becomes stronger over time. That's why you get people who have conspiracy theories. The conspiracy theorists, instead of getting better over time, they become more and more infected. They become more and more committed to their conspiracy theories, which is quite frightening. But it goes on from what this author is saying, is that once you gain a belief, then your confirmation bias will continue to search the universe for evidence that your belief is right. And that's why it's important for each and every person to be careful what they load into their reticular activating system, how open their mind is, who they have as influences, because all of those things will form their worldview, will create slivers of reality. And if you're comparing your slivers of damaged reality, false reality, to other people's slivers of false reality, then you get a belief that all of that is in fact real and true. And that's how you build these communities of conspiracy theorists who just go on, and they go further and further deeper into their rabbit burrows. So we need to be careful, that we're careful with what we repeat to ourselves, careful about what we become obsessed with, careful of what we possess in terms of possessions, and what slivers of reality we keep and hold, because as we say, they can be damaging when we're surrounded by the wrong influences and the wrong people.
It's an awfully long photo you're taking there.
Yes, I'm doing a vlog, mate.
Eh?
I'm doing a vlog, YouTube channel. So what we're saying here is we need to plant the right seeds and harvest the right crops, the right fruits. Need to nurture the seeds, the soil, the water, the weeds, to ensure a bumper crop that is disease-free. And the social media that we're surrounded with, unfortunately, according to this author, is an echo chamber that can reinforce our beliefs or our misbeliefs, our information, our misinformation, and our disinformation. And it can be either right or wrong, and lead us further along the right or the wrong path. And we need to understand that we gravitate towards our thoughts and beliefs and people and groups who affirm and support those beliefs and worldviews. Each person's matrix is unique to them, and our reticular activating system is based on our past, present experiences and our interpretation of those events, and the stories we tell ourselves and the lessons we learn, and the nostalgia that we pine for. And that's basically it. So thank you very much. This is without doubt the longest Jim's 5 a.m. club that I've put together. I had to do it in one take because that's who I am, that's how I operate. I love doing these vlogs unedited and in one go where possible, because at the end of the day it's a form of expression. If I have too much time to think about it, then I may be saying things that I don't believe, whereas when I do it off the cuff, it's coming from my spirit, it's coming from my heart, and it's the thing that makes this product, this YouTube channel, unique and rather special in my eyes. So much so that I feel that at this point in time, with close to 1,500 vlogs, I am without doubt the most prolific producer of personal development material in the world. My YouTube channel has material from all different sources, different books, where we tap into other people's experiences, their deep thinking, and that is a legacy that hopefully I can pass on to future generations. Anyway, wishing everybody all the very best. I look forward to chatting to you again from a different place, from a different, with a different message of empowerment. And there we go. Party time. We'll see you'll be partying tomorrow. Take care, yasas, and bye for now.